Good evening, everyone. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to invite the speaker, Mr. Naganagouda Malkaji, who will talk about residue-free rice cultivation practices. I now request the speaker to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Yeah, this is my privilege to share my experiences on residue-free rice cultivation practices. So I'll be talking about these aspects. So bit of introduction about myself, followed by residue-free rice introduction. Then what is the current situation, followed by good agricultural practices to produce residue-free rice, and at the end, conclusion. So my name is Naganagouda Malkaji. I am a postgraduate in agricultural sciences with agronomy as my specialization. I have 23 years of experience in the field. My career began with one of the FAO supported projects promoting sustainable agriculture way back in early 2000s. I was with FAO project for 5+ years, and then I worked with a corporate company based at Hyderabad and involved in conducting multi-location trials across India. So after that, so we started our own startup called Agripreneurs Private Limited. Currently, I am one of the co-founders and director at Agripreneurs Private Limited, based at Davanagere. Before co-founding this, I was involved in training of farmers, various stakeholders, university scientists, department officials on good agricultural practices, sustainable agriculture, farmer field school, and many more crops. I am one of the FAO certified master trainers on farmer field schools and integrated pest management. Currently, we are doing agriculture consultancy, sale of agri inputs, and also promotion of carbon farming. I am also one of the consultants to a carbon farming project called the Good Rice Alliance. I am taking care of their research plots where we measure greenhouse gas emissions in different practices. So before this also I worked on paddy. So my first work on paddy began during 2007 in Nagar district. Even now I am deeply engaged in paddy. So yeah, so let us talk a bit about the importance of paddy. As all of you know, paddy is having highest area in India with 41.9 million hectares. It is also one of the important crops producing highest production. So the total production in India is about 144 million tons, which is about 40% of the total food grains produced in India. The rice is like, an important staple crop for the India, especially in eastern and southern India. Rice is the only staple food crop. So if you look at the total India figures, more than 65% of the population depends on rice for their staple food. So if you look at the consumption level of rice in cities and rural areas, so it is bit more in rural areas at 75 kg per year per head, whereas in urban areas it is 53 kg per year per head. And let us also understand the importance of rice because it is also an important component in baby foods. So according to the estimates, 27 to 28% of baby foods contain rice. The major component of it is rice. So then for producing rice, a lot of pesticides are used by the farmers without much knowledge on the residue levels. So rice is one of the important crops where we can get maximum earnings through foreign exchange. So the export potentiality of rice is huge. Now let us try to understand what do you mean by residue-free rice. So residue-free rice is nothing but the rice which contains no harmful chemical pesticide residues, or the residues which are within the permissible limits. Usually the term is called as MRL, maximum residue limits. So these residues are not only limited to pesticides but also to heavy metals. So let us understand the current status of rice growing by the farmers. So if you look at any of the rice growing areas, because currently I'm deeply involved in the research activities across 8 different states in India. So farmers use pesticides indiscriminately. That means to say, without much knowledge on the residue levels, without much knowledge on the appropriate molecules to be used, they have been using pesticides. Harmful effects of pesticides are very well known. Many pesticides are carcinogens. They affect endocrines, reproductive systems, nervous systems. Some of the pesticides like acephate, bifenthrin, captan, chlorothalonil, cypermethrin, these are banned elsewhere because of their carcinogenic effect, but still they are used in India, especially on rice crop. The second most important contaminant that we get in the rice is through the irrigation water. So many a times, either drainage water or the water contaminated with heavy metals by the industrial effluents is used for irrigation. So they contain heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury. They are also dangerous because many of them involve in kidney malfunctioning, neurological disorders, carcinogenic effect. So heavy metal contamination is also one of the major concerns for our country. So because of these things, higher residues of pesticides and also heavy metals are currently available in the ecosystem and also in the rice that we use. So if you look at the current situation little deeper, especially at the domestic market, consumers are not much cared about the residue levels. Same is the case with the producers. Whereas many importing countries, especially from the EU and America, so their concern level towards the residue level is very high. They do not accept any lot which is having higher level residues than the permissible limits as per their standards. So if you look at the several publications, especially in the print media, they indicate that rice either consumed in India or exported to other countries have got residue levels higher than the permissible limit. If you look at this article, so it says 15 pesticide residues were found by the USDA. So this rice was exported from India. So you can see this high pesticide content a drag on rice exports. Because of this, several export lots were rejected. So if you look at this article, multiple pesticide residues in rice and chlor persistence in peat soils. That means pesticide residues are not only available in the grain but also in the rice. So you can see this article, 270 ton of rice consignment was rejected because of high pesticide residues. Yes, earlier only European Union and America was particular about pesticide residues. This particular article says now Saudi Arabia is also raising a red flag on residue levels in the rice. So now let us look at the toxic metals found in all the rice samples in the new report. So that means to say the consumers, especially those who are concerned about the residue levels, they are also looking at heavy metals. These articles, they indicate that the rice that we are consuming, most of the varieties, most of the lots that are available in the market are being consumed without testing. When they are subjected to test, so we might find one or more or sometimes zero heavy metals. So when the heavy metal concentration is zero, it is good for the consumers. Whereas when we find any of these heavy metals such as arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, they are posing health risks to human beings. So after knowing these things, now there is a need to produce residue-free rice. Now let us look at what are all the good agricultural practices available to produce residue-free rice. So in the beginning, we shall, differentiate residue-free rice and organic rice. In case of organic rice, no synthetic fertilizer and no synthetic pesticide is allowed to use. Along with that, there are several stringent rules. Whereas in case of residue-free rice cultivation, some of the synthetic, nutrients and pesticides are allowed, but they have to be used with proper care so that the end product will not have any residue levels beyond permissible limit. So there are several aspects to it in the good agricultural practices. First aspect is about nutrient management. Here, so for each field, we need to adopt site-specific nutrient management. That means to say, based on the available nutrients in the soil, the quantity of nutrients to be applied has to be decided. So there should not be complete rely on only synthetic fertilizers. So we need to include organic manures, green manures, and also biofertilizers. Many a times we undermine the importance of these things. Let me begin with one of the important biofertilizers. So if you look at many command areas in South India, farmers have been applying higher doses of phosphatic fertilizers. So the fixed phosphorus in the soil is very high. So in this case, if you use P solubilizing bacteria, P will be available for the subsequent crop. So we can reduce the rely on synthetic fertilizers, especially phosphatic fertilizers. Coming to nitrogen, we have green manure option and also biofertilizer option. In this case, azotobacter can be effectively used to reduce the reliance on the nitrogenous fertilizers such as urea, ammonium sulfate, and other complex fertilizers. So another important thing is, so fertilizers have to be applied well before harvest. So there is an effect called withdrawal effect. We need to keep that in mind. The second good practices to produce residue-free rice is with respect to pest and disease control. Here, chemical option should be the last option to manage any of the pest and disease that we find in case of paddy. So for this, we need to adopt integrated pest management practice. Here, we have to use pheromone traps. For example, there are pheromone traps available to monitor the population of stem borer. So light traps are also used to trap stem borer adults in case of rice. And there are biopesticides, for example, Bacillus thuringiensis. It can be used against two important pests in rice, that is stem borer and leaf folder. So chemical option should be the last one in case of residue-free rice cultivation. So then comes water management. Water management is very important because we know that drainage water and also the water contaminated after the industrial effluents contain heavy metals. So here we need to use uncontaminated water. That means to say which is free of heavy metals. So another important thing is water management has to be scientific. So if you use more and more water, there will be more and more heavy metals accumulation in the soil and also in the grain that we consume. Hence, good practices such as alternate wetting and drying can be practiced. So it reduces heavy metal accumulation and also reduces methane emissions from the paddy field. So there are pests, important pests and diseases which have to be managed during cropping season. So what are all the mechanisms available to reduce pesticide residues when there are problems? Now, one of the important pests is stem borer. So you can see this is the adult, this is the egg mass, this is the larvae. These are the damaged panicles. So normally farmers apply granular pesticides such as keratop hydrochloride, fipronil, chlorantraniliprole, so as prophylactic measures. So when they find damage, they use several insecticides. Most commonly used insecticides are chlorpyrifos, fipronil, chlorantraniliprole, lambda-cyhalothrin, keratop hydrochloride, thiamethoxam, and many more. So now these are commonly used, but let us try to understand some of the facts about stem borer. So the first fact is during early stage, farmers are applying prophylactic uh, pesticides through granular formulations, whether they are really required or not. Let us try to understand it. Because I have done an experiment on this, I found that if there is little bit of stem borer damage early in the vegetative stage, it will not completely kill the plant. Instead, it will allow the plant to produce more tillers. That means to say, some of the cereals like paddy, when there is some damage by stem borer to the main shoot, plant produces more tillering. So no need to apply granular pesticides prophylactically. And the second stage in paddy is vegetative stage. So during vegetative stage, there will be good tillers and there will be weak tillers. Weak tillers are usually called as unproductive tillers because they will not produce any panicles. So stem borer will not primarily affect the panicle producing strong tillers. It usually affects weak tillers. When weak tillers are affected, it is not going to cause much yield loss. So in the third stage, that means reproductive stage, definitely there will be some damage by the stem borer, as you saw it in the previous picture. The symptoms produced by stem borer is called as dead heart. So we also quantified the loss. The loss, when quantified, we found that the cost of managing the pest by using pesticides was found to be higher than the additional yield. That means to say, even at the reproductive stage also, the economical benefit that we derive after pesticide spray is not much. And in the farmer's practice, they will only find the damage symptoms and then apply the pesticides. By the time they decide to apply the pesticides, most of the times the larvae would have entered into the next stage. That means to say pupal stage, which is non-damaging stage of the insect. So in my experience, if no chemicals are used since beginning, there will be a natural buildup of crop defending insects. They will automatically reduce the population of stem borer adults as well as larvae. So when we don't use pesticides, it will also reduce the incidence of leaf folder and BPH incidents. We will talk more about this in the next slide. So there are pheromone traps available to monitor the population of stem borers. As I said before, Bacillus thuringiensis can be effectively used to control the stem borer incidence. So one more important thing for the farmers is when we delay the transplanting activity, stem borer incidence will be very much. So do not delay transplanting activity. So stem borer is not a problem as long as we are going for transplanting on time and also taking all these important steps during the crop growing period. And the uh, second second important pest is leaf folder. So leaf folder, you can see this is the leaf folded by the larvae. So it will scrap the leaf and then white patches appears on the leaves. So if you look at the crop from a distance, it looks like the damage is evident. But the damage, many a times farmers misunderstand the extent of damage. Let us see it little later. So for managing this pest, here also farmers resort to several pesticides. Commonly used pesticides are chlorpyrifos, fipronil, chlorantraniliprole, lambda-cyhalothrin, kertop hydrochloride, thiamethoxam, and others. So now let us understand this particular pest in detail. So farmers apply pesticides after seeing these white patches. But by the time they decide to apply pesticide, the larva would have completed its larval phase and entered the pupal stage, which is non-damaging stage of the pest. And the second thing is why there will not be any larva in the folded leaf, because there are several natural enemies which attack and feed or kill the leaf folder larvae. Then we also quantified the damage caused by this particular pest. So when there were 10 leaves damaged in a particular hill out of say 50, 60 hills, the extent of leaf area damage was only 2-3%. So many times we get a confusion whether this 2-3% leaf area damage will it have any impact on the yield. So to study this, we conducted one leaf compensation ability. So the leaf compensation ability was conducted in a manner where we manually cut the leaf portions. We cut at different percentages, starting from 5 and up to 25%. We found that when there is leaf damage up to 25% in the vegetative stage and pillaring stage, so it will not cause any yield reduction. That means to say, paddy crop has got its own compensation ability to produce the same yield when there is some leaf damage, especially by leaf-eating pests and also the leaf folder insect. So the third and most important pest in paddy ecosystem is brown plant hopper. So this produces dead heart symptoms. We can say this is the patch affected by brown plant hopper. Complete burning can be found in some of the paddy fields when the BPH population is very high. So here also farmers are using only chemical options. Commonly used chemicals in the farmer fields are acephate, chlorpyrifos plus cypermethrin, denatofuran, pymetrozone, triflumezopirim. These are the commonly used pesticides. Now let us understand some facts about BPH. So BPH insects are commonly found in case of rice ecosystem. So we should not go for any preventive spray. If no chemicals are used before, BPH damage will be usually less. We have found several natural enemies which will keep the population of BPH under control. So commonly used pesticides are, suggested pesticides. You can see this one pesticide, triflumezopirim. It is used at the rate 94 ml per acre. So here the important factor is we have to use this particular pesticide 24 days before harvesting. This PHI means pre-harvest interval. So if we use this particular insecticide at this dose 21 days before harvest, there will be residue in the rice grain which will not be which will not be above the prescribed limit by the FSSAI and also European Union. The second pesticide suggested is pymetrozone. The dosage is 120 gram per acre. Here the PHI is 19 days. So in my experience, if no pesticides are used since beginning, BPH problem is really a rare phenomena. I've seen two adjacent fields severely affected by BPH where farmers used pesticides before, whereas in one of my farmers field where he did not use pesticides, there was no BPH incidents, or there was some BPH incidents which was like less damaging to the crop. So if you go to the paddy field, we have to look at the natural enemies available in the paddy ecosystem. The commonly available natural enemies are ladybird beetle, and most important natural enemy is spider. We can find different species of spiders in paddy ecosystem. We can find spiders on the canopy. We can find spiders, on the leaves within the canopy. Some of the spiders can be found at the bottom of the canopy also. So if you go to a field which was, which has not received pesticide spray, early in the morning when there is dew, we can completely see a layer of spider webs with live spiders. You can see this is one photograph. There are about 6-7 leaves in this frame. I found 3 spiders, one here, one second one here, third one here. So what do they do? So when they build these spider webs, adult insects such as it may be stem borer adult, it may be leaf folder adult, or it may be BPH, they will be trapped in the spider web. So these spiders feed on those insects. The spiders which are available on the leaves and also in the canopy near the bottom, so they feed on the larva. They also feed on the newly hatched larvae, including the egg mass. There are other predators such as damselfly, dragonfly. So there are parasitoids which parasitize eggs and also larvae. So then coming to the diseases, the first important disease is blast, and the second important disease is sheath rot and sheath blight. You can see this is the blast symptom. Blast symptom is found on the leaves and also at the nodal region and also at the flag leaf stage on the just before the panicle at the nodal region. So this is sheath rot disease. This is typical sheath blight disease. So here farmers use several fungicides. One of the commonly used fungicide in paddy ecosystem is tricyclazole. Tricyclazole is banned in EU and Europe US because of its carcinogenic effect. So, for example, as per the recommendation, tricyclazole dose is 120 gram per acre. The cost of this tricyclazole is much cheaper compared to other fungicides. Hence, farmers usually apply higher dose than the recommended one. So, most of the export rice by India was rejected because of higher tricyclazole content in the grains. So tricyclazole should not be used in case of paddy to manage these two diseases. So one of the strategies could be the use of resistant varieties. For example, in South India, there is one popular variety called RNR 15048. So it is commonly grown in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. So if you use original RNR 1504 variety, 15048 variety, it is naturally resistant to both blast and sheath blight diseases. So if farmers are growing susceptible varieties, there are some fungicides available, so which can treat the disease very well, which can control the disease very well. So the one fungicide is azoxystrobin plus difenoconazole. It's a combi product. The recommended dose is 200 ml per acre. It has to be applied 31 days before harvesting. So there is another fungicide. It's a combi product again, azoxystrobin plus tebuconazole. So the dose is 300 ml per acre. So the PHI is 31 days here. Here also there is another fungicide, tebuconazole plus trifloxystrobin. The dose suggested per acre is 120 grams. So the pre-harvest interval duration is 21 days. The next disease is smut. This is loose smut, and there is another disease called kernel bunt. Here, individual grains become black and chaffy. So here also farmers resort to several fungicides. There are some resistant varieties available. So wherever this particular problem is very high, farmers can go to resistant varieties. And if the symptoms are found, they can use suggested fungicide, which is propiconazole at the rate 200 ml per acre. The caution here is it has to be used 30 days before the harvest. The next disease is bacterial blight. So farmers here use several fungicides and bactericides without proper knowledge. There are important management practices. One is resistant varieties. Yes, according to the reason, there are resistant varieties and hybrids available. Farmers can use these resistant cultivars if the area is prone to bacterial leaf blight. The second thing is uh, bio biopesticide application. Pseudomonas is one of the suggested biopesticide, so it can be used as a preventive measure to reduce the incidence of bacterial leaf blight. So another agronomic practice which can reduce the disease severity is avoidance of water movement from affected plot to healthy plots. And the next agronomic practice is irrigation management practice. If you continue to flood more, there will be more disease incidence. So if you follow alternate wetting and drying practice, bacterial leaf blight incidence will be naturally reduced. So if at all, if you find bacterial leaf blight symptoms, then farmers can use one copper-based fungicide. It is copper hydroxide at the rate 400 grams per acre, along with an antibiotic containing streptomycin sulfate plus tetracycline hydrochloride at 400 grams per acre. So it can be used 10 days before the harvest of the crop. So if these practices are followed to manage the pests and diseases, there could be no residues in the grain. Even if there are residues, they will be below the MRLs as per the FSSAI and EU standards. So if you produce residue-free rice, these are all the benefits. So residue-free rice cultivation protects the environment by ensuring clean water resources because we are not contaminating the water. We are also promoting healthier soil, enhancing biodiversity. When the pesticides usage is reduced, there will be many species available in the paddy ecosystem. Please remember that paddy ecosystem is considered as one of the balanced ecosystems. So there will be pests and also there will be natural enemies in the paddy ecosystem. So it is also important because residue-free rice cultivation protects the health of consumers. Uh, so we have not talked much about the straw that we feed to our milk animals. When we are following residue-free rice cultivation practices, straw will be devoid of pesticide residues. So this particular practice will also help milk animals to get quality straw and healthy straw. So another important thing is many a times Indian farmers do not, wear PPE measures while applying pesticides. So because of that, they are exposed to several pesticides. When we are using safer options, no chemical options, farm workers are less exposed to pesticide residues. So healthier ecosystem means we are leaving good soil for our future generation. Just to conclude my summary, pesticides and heavy metals residues are really a threat to human beings, animals, and ecosystem as a whole. It is possible to grow residue-free rice. We have been listening a lot about Swachh Bharat. In my view, there is a need to focus more on healthy India, which can be called as Swasth Bharat. So residue-free rice cultivation and consumption can be an important component in promotion of healthy India. So farmers are important to produce residue-free rice. So training farmers on residue-free rice cultivation practices is an important and sustainable step to produce safe food. So there are a lot of good agricultural practices to be followed so that residue-free rice can be produced. So I think my presentation might give you an idea that residue-free rice cultivation can be practiced without any yield loss by following good agricultural practices. So thank you so much. So now the forum is open for discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Naganagouda, for a very detailed presentation. Now I will take up some questions.
Yes.
So, first question, what are the key steps farmers should follow to ensure rice is grown completely residue-free?
Yes. The first step is proper nutrient management. So when we use more synthetic fertilizers, some of the synthetic fertilizers do have heavy metals. So reduction in the synthetic fertilizer use means there will be reduction in the residues both in the soil and also in the grain. So that is one thing. The second thing is the use of alternate sources of nutrients like organic manure. Everybody says organic manure is not available. Wherever organic manures are available, they have to be used. And the second best option available is growing green manure crop. Green manure crop can be successfully grown, say about 50 days before the transplanting of paddy crop. If you incorporate it, probably that will, meet the requirement of 25 to 30% of the total nitrogen by the rice crop. And the next component in nutrient management is use of some of the bio inputs such as phosphorus solubilizing bacteria and nitrogen fixing bacteria. Then comes proper cultivation methods, especially agronomic practices. One is irrigation management. In this case, we need to use uncontaminated water. So people have to be very, very careful in using the water. So we should avoid the use of drainage water and also the water contaminated by industrial effluents, because those effluents and drainage water will invariably have heavy metals. Heavy metals are also, harmful to the ecosystem and also to the price consumers. The next thing is there are biopesticides available for some of the pests like stem borer and leaf folder. uh, for example, bacillus thuringiensis. There are preventive bio inputs such as Pseudomonas available to manage bacterial leaf blight. And there are agronomic practices such as avoiding the movement of water from bacterial leaf blight affected plot to healthy plot. After doing all of these things, chemicals are necessary in some of the cases, especially for the disease management when farmers are growing susceptible varieties. In that case, I have given the permissible or allowed fungicides with proper pre-harvest interval. So one has to apply the suggested fungicides at the suggested rate, considering proper pre-harvest interval, so that the end product, that means grain, will be having residues within the permissible limits. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay. And how can pest and disease control be managed without chemical residues while still protecting yield?
Yes. Let us look at stem borer. I have discussed about it. Stem borer management is not required in the early stage, because little bit of stem borer damage in the early stage will increase tillering capacity of the plant. So that means to say early stage stem borer will not cause yield damage. And in the second stage, stem borer usually affects weaker tillers or unproductive tillers. So there also there is no need. And in the third stage, there will be some damage to the panicles, or we can say during the panicle initiation stage. If you look at the yield loss will be less than the additional economic benefit farmer is going to get because of the pesticide spray. That means to say cost of pest management, especially for the stem borer, will be higher than the additional returns farmers can expect. And the second thing is leaf folder is not a major pest, because the leaf damage by the leaf folder will be 2 to 3%. It is well within the plant compensation ability of the rice crop. And the next pest is BPH. If you do not apply pesticides since beginning, there will be a buildup of several natural enemies in the paddy ecosystem. They will automatically take care of BPH. BPH will not cause damage to the paddy crop. So even if there is any BPH incidence, there are some pesticides available with proper pre-harvest interval and proper dose. They can be safely applied. So then comes fungicides. Same is the case here also. Resistant varieties can be used. Some of the suggested fungicides with pre-harvest intervals as suggested can be applied on paddy crop, so that we can produce residue-free rice.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what organic or biological inputs work best in residue-free rice cultivation?
See, in the organic inputs, one important organic input is organic manure. It could be farm-made manure, sheep manure, poultry manure. So sometimes poultry manure may also contain heavy metals. One has to be careful with the use of poultry manure. And the second important organic manure is green manuring. So it can be commonly or widely practiced by the paddy farmers. Then comes bio. You also talked about organic manures and biopesticides, right?
Yeah.
So among biopesticides, so one is Bacillus thuringiensis, the second one is Pseudomonas. Bacillus thuringiensis can be used to control stem borer and the leaf folder, whereas Pseudomonas can be used as a prophylactic spray or preventive spray against bacterial leaf blight of rice crop. So apart from this, there are biofertilizers such as phosphorus solubilizing bacteria and Azotobacter, nitrogen fixing bacteria. They can be effectively used in residue-free rice cultivation.
Okay. And how does the cost of residue-free cultivation compare with conventional rice farming?
Yes, of course, this is a good question. We are avoiding some of the pesticides. So farmer is saving cost. If you do not apply a pesticide to manage the stem borer, so on an average, farmers can save about 700 to 800 rupees per acre. So if you are avoiding or if you are growing resistant varieties, then the spray cost and fungicides can also be reduced. So their farmer will save about 1,000 rupees per acre. So in my experience, so if the farmers adopt residue-free rice cultivation practices, they can save about 2,500 rupees to 3,000 rupees per acre. So just to remind you, I have farmers in Davanagere region who have been growing residue-free rice since 13 years without any yield loss. That means to say other farmers can also effectively follow residue-free rice cultivation practices without losing yield.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there premium price or special market for residue-free rice, and how can farmers access it?
Yes, indeed, it is a good question. You know, we were also involved. I was also involved in, production, procuring, and selling residue-free rice to some of the exporters before. During COVID, we could not continue this particular activity. There are buyers who are in a position to offer higher price for residue-free rice. So, but when the quantity is less, there are really less buyers available for such rice. But when the quantity is huge, definitely there are exporters, because all the European Union and also American market demands or require residue free rice. But in the domestic market, awareness is still not up to the mark. People are behind organic. But in my view, if you want to feed the entire nation like India with 140 crore population, switching over to organic is a difficult task, whereas practicing residue-free cultivation is little easy. It can be easily adopted by the farmers. So if you create proper awareness, probably domestic consumers will also pay little more to the farmers. I have few farmers who produce residue-free rice and sold in their known circles at higher price. So this is happening, but there has to be some involvement by the organizations or big private players so that it can be practiced widely and marketed at a scale.
Okay. And is there premium? Yeah, I think you have answered.
Yeah.
What certification or testing is required to prove that rice is residue free for buyers?
Yes, again, indeed, it is an important and much needed question. There are laboratories available across India, so they test pesticide residues and heavy metals. So, for example, 3 years before we tested three rice lots, so they were testing 214 pesticide residues and six different heavy metal content in the rice. So they test and they provide the test report. If the if the residue levels are below MRL or below the permissible limit, then the exporter will accept it. So if any of the pesticide residue or the heavy metal content is above MRL, we cannot consider it as residue free. There are several laboratories, because I know two labs. One is Eurofins and the other one is TUV. There are other labs as well. They do residue testing for food grains, including rice.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And yeah. How does residue-free farming impact soil fertility, biodiversity, and long-term sustainability?
Yes. You see, let us talk about each component wise. One is fertilizers management. Here we are optimizing the fertilizers management. So more the fertilizer uses, more will be the salinity in some cases when alkaline saline salt forming fertilizers are used. And fertilizers are also a source of heavy metals in some cases. So we can reduce the heavy metals consumption when fertilizer usage is optimized. And the second thing is we have talked about irrigation management. When uncontaminated water is used, we are ensuring less residues in the ecosystem and also in the grain. So we are leaving a healthy soil for the future generation. So we have also talked about good irrigation management practices such as alternate wetting and drying. So we are, not only reducing the heavy metals load in the soil, we are also reducing methane emissions from the paddy fields. The next thing is pest management. Here, we are not using highly hazardous or we can say highly residual pesticides or fungicides in residue-free cultivation. That means to say the residues by the suggested either pesticides or fungicides will not last long in the grain or in the ecosystem. That means the entire ecosystem, the grain, the straw will be the residue levels in those will be much lesser compared to conventional rice farming. So in all, we can say residue-free rice cultivation will definitely have a positive impact on the healthy soil, will have a positive impact on the ecosystem because we are conserving a lot of biodiversity in the field. It is also going to have a lot of impact on the consumers as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can residue-free practices reduce water usage in rice cultivation?
Yes. I suggested to use alternate wetting and drying. So in this case, if farmers follow alternate wetting and drying, say around 25 to 30% water can be saved. Just I would like to briefly talk about alternate wetting and drying practice. So in this case, farmers can go for light flooding, say about 1 inch water up to 21 days. So that means early vegetative stage. It is important to reduce weed infestation. So after 21 days, farmers can impound say about 5 inches water on the surface. So after that, water level goes down gradually. Farmers can wait till the time it reaches say about 15 centimeter below the soil surface. It can be monitored through alternate wetting and drying pipe. So you can Google it to get more information about the installation and also water management practice by using AWD pipe. So there will be alternate cycles of flooding and moist conditions in the field. So thereby we are reducing water usage in the paddy cultivation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges farmers face in shifting from conventional to residue-free cultivation?
So one is lack of awareness because farmers do not know the residue levels in the grain and in the ecosystem. So the biggest challenge for all of us is educating the farmers on residue-free cultivation. So that is the biggest challenge. The second thing is agri-input dealers. They also do not know what to give and how much to give, right? Their motto will be in many cases to make more profit rather than saving the environment or saving the lives of consumers. So the second level should be to educate agri input dealers on residue free rice cultivation. And the third challenge in the whole system is when farmers are producing rice without residues, that means to say when farmers are producing healthy rice, consumers also should be in a position to pay little more a premium price to the farmers so that farmer livelihood will also be improved. So educating the consumers on the residue free rice consumption. So these are all the three challenges which we need to address immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there government schemes, FPO support or private buyers that encourage and support residue-free rice production?
Yes. So if you look at the available package of practices by various universities, they simply suggest the options available. Sometimes cultural options, biological options, and pesticide options. So there they do not explicitly mention the pre-harvest interval. That means to say the information given is not comprehensive, is not as per the requirement of residue-free rice cultivation. So my request here is government can focus on providing proper information with pre-harvest interval information against each suggested practice, so that farmer can choose an option. For example, if there are two options available to manage a pest, so one option is having 21 days pre-harvest interval, the second option is having say 10 days harvest interval. So if the farmer is going to harvest within 15 days, so he will have to choose the one which is having lower PHI days, right? So in that case, farmer can choose the second option with 10 days pre-harvest interval. So this information government can, provide. And I have not seen much focus given by the government to produce residue rice. Whereas the in the last budget, government has emphasized on organic farming and natural farming. Hope in the coming days, government will stress more on the residue-free farming as well. So coming to the private players, there are private players producing organic rice, especially in North India. They are focusing on basmati rice. In India, there are very few private players producing organic rice. Residue-free rice, they are not focusing on producing. Instead, they are scouting for farmers who are using less pesticides, or whom they feel like they are meeting the requirement of residue free rice cultivation. They draw samples, give it for testing. If the test results are satisfactory, then they are procuring from the farmers. But this is also not a common practice. So private players, so when they give importance to residue free rice like organic rice, they can play an important role as well to promote residue-free rice farming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Naganagouda, I don't see any more questions. So before we end, one last question.
Yeah.
Please let us know little about your career background and what made you to take an interest in entering the agriculture field and particularly the rice production.
So you asked about career background and
Yes, yes. Little
and
about your career background and what
yes.
made you to take an interest in enter this agriculture field.
Okay. Okay. You know, immediately after my PUC, I had two options. I could have chosen, computer engineering course or agricultural graduation. So, but because of my family background, that means agricultural background, I chose BSc agriculture instead of computer science. Then I wanted to do post graduation, so which was like, not completely specific, so it should be general, so that I can be with the community for a long time. So there I chose agronomy. Agronomy is a broad subject. So after post graduation, my role with FAO project transformed my professional knowledge, because we were working with the farmers covering many crops, because I have hands-on experience working with the farmers covering the paddy, red gram, cotton, tomato, potato, chilies, then mulberry, so many more crops, castor, many more crops we covered. So there I could understand the crop pest environment interactions very well. I know when a particular pest or disease can appear, when it can subside on its own, and what are all the effective management practices. The second important turn that I took in my career was, 100 days residential training program on farmer field school and integrated pest management organized by Food and Agricultural Organization of United Nations. So during that training, there were many international trainers training us on, integrated crop management practice. So I still feel that whatever I learned during those 100 days period was much effective than my complete graduation, because there we were focusing on 100% practical thing. And the next thing is, I did not learn and keep quiet. I continue to work with the farmers. I continue to educate all the stakeholders involved in agriculture. Uh, so I trained many NGO workers, colleagues, department officials, researchers, students on good agricultural practices. So that has motivated many people, and also it gave me a kind of satisfaction when we are helping people to help themselves, or, or help community. So it will be more satisfying. And I'm also directly working with farmers. I have provided consultancy to many pomegranate farmers, papaya growers, paddy growers, tomato, and many other crops. I've been listening lot of success stories from the field every day. So that is more confidence giving than any other job. Just for the sake of audience, I also had an opportunity to join the Department of Agriculture as an agriculture officer. I did not join simply because I wanted to be with the farming community. So then comes, because of my professional knowledge and my association with the paddy crop, so we got a rice carbon farming project supported by Bayer. Currently we are implementing the project in central Karnataka, covering four districts: Davanagere, Haveri, Vizianagara, and Gadag. The total area covered under the project is about 16,500 acres. Apart from that, I am also uh, acting as a consultant for the greenhouse gas measurement fields. We have 14 such GHG research fields across India. I am taking care of agronomic activities with the local teams support. I have also represented the project in several national and international events. Recently, I participated in an event at Chicago. So it was focusing on regenerative agriculture. There, I had an opportunity to share my experiences from the field. Before that, also, there was an event in Baku. It was COP29. I also shared my experiences. I also participated in Asia Climate Summit held at Delhi. So so my passion to continue to work with the farming community is mainly because I get a lot of satisfaction. I feel that this is an opportunity for the professionals like me, which gives win-win situation for all the stakeholders. Here the stakeholders are like me, farmer, and also the organization promoting any of the projects such as carbon farming project. Rashmi, any other question?
Yeah. Okay. Very good to know about your experience and all your earlier engagements. So, okay, Mr. Naganagouda. So now we have come to end of question now. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for a very detailed presentation and answering all the questions in depth. And I also like to thank my detailed team for sharing the questions. We'll be ending this meeting now. Have a good weekend and wish you a happy Dasara.
Thank you, Rashmi, for the opportunity, and I also wish you a happy weekend and Dasara. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.